Welcome to the Journos on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Hugh McDonald, Michael Grant and Gordon Parks here. We have Michael in the studio with us, and there's no real calamity at the moment. The Dons haven't been beaten in the last day, so you're in with a positive outlook coming up.
Welcome
Michael.
To the show.
Yeah, that's why we've got you in. So delighted that Michael's back with us, and our sponsors Cameron Commercial Vehicles. If you're looking for a quality new and used van, then Sean's your man. The main headlines that we're going to be discussing, of course, on the programme. Celtic have one striker in ahead of that showdown with Hearts. As far as the Jam Tarts are considering a replacement for Lawrence Shankland, can they get Rogers Mayhew all cleared and ready to play? Will they throw him into that game? Aberdeen closing in on a new manager. We are going to get the name, exactly who he is, where he's from Michael Grant, or we're going to beat the living daylights out of him, Partsy.
Sounds like a plan.
And never mind the name. And how do we reverse the slide in our coefficient, which is grim, to say the least, on the European front. So that's all to talk about. Of course, Champions League. I did raise an eyebrow here. I must get your immediate opinion. I did raise an eyebrow at Bodø Glimt 3, Manchester City 1. And not a huge budget. One Nigerian and also one Russian in their side. The rest of them are all Norwegian. And they're 27th in that overall Champions League table, and they've got a chance again in the playoff.
Yep. I was surprised, obviously, as well. I mean, it's Manchester City are not in a good place at the moment, and there's also there's really big speculation that Guardiola might go sooner rather than later. So they're not in a great place. But even so, with the respective kind of armoury in the teams. I remember Bodø Glimt was a team that were knocked out last year, the Europa League, quite cosily by Tottenham Hotspur, so it was a bit of a shock. No shame to Bodø Glimt, however, who have got a really good business and playing model, and they are punching above themselves, even to be in the Champions League, but that's a signature result for them.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I don't know about you, Michael, but maybe it's because we are being channeled this way. But when I hear a journalist in a press conference talk to Pep Guardiola about, it's a really difficult time for you, Pep. You've got injuries and there's some players suspended. And I think to myself, yeah, you've spent over £1 billion. You're owned by a state. And some people are saying it's really difficult for you. Your second team could batter most of the English Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they've just spent 20 million on Gay, haven't they, from Crystal Palace? And what was Semenya? Was he
60 something?
He was 60 odd or something. So that's in this window alone. I mean, you're right that when you spend the amount of money that Pep has and City have, your sympathy is pretty thin, isn't it? People expect you to just be able to cope. Your squad, your resources should be good enough to cope with anything. Bodø Glimt, they've been doing this for years. Remember, they beat Celtic under Ange, home and away.
Yes.
And even by that point, they'd built up a reputation. And it is largely on their home form, but they've been able to do some away heroics as well. But, to go back to your original point, that kind of embarrasses Celtic, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Because fans say, well, look at the resources we have compared to Bodø Glimt. How come we're not producing goals even close to this?
It's more than that. This is a team from a town that's got a population of Kirkintilloch, and they've done it with home-based players. Yeah. Don't ever tell us again it can't be done, because it can be done. It's remarkable.
Yeah, and of course it puts into question our signing policy. Maybe it puts into question also the depth of quality that we have on the home front, or maybe it questions some of the managers who refuse to give, some Scottish players 50 to 100 games that they desperately need to develop as players as well. And maybe overall the SFA maybe have to have a look in the SPFL and say to themselves, well, the structure of our league, the background to developing players maybe also has to have a look at. And the reason I mention that is because our coefficient, I was looking at the boy on Twitter, I paid him a compliment. He's quite extensive in his insight into it all. We're 32nd overall, we're 18th in the rankings, and I think we've only had 7 wins out of 32. It's desperate.
It's nearly 40, I think it is, 40 games and 7 wins. It's terrible. Yeah. And obviously that has repercussions for next season, and especially for the season beyond that.
4 teams
fall off a cliff.
It's unbelievable. And by the way, 4 teams, and the best we're getting into is qualifying round 2.
Yeah, and your league runner-up goes into the Conference League qualifiers rather than the Champions League qualifiers. The Scottish Cup winner, I think, has to go through 4 qualifying rounds in the Europa League. So yeah, it's going to be grim, and that's a consequence of year after year of underachievement by all our clubs.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say, we did discuss it on the football show to a degree, but obviously it's good to get your guys' take on it. And I've spoken to in the last week, Neil Doncaster. There's very positive messages out there where everybody's standing in front of a camera saying 820 million. And great, because Neil's job as a representative and a voice of the clubs is to generate income. But over and above that, I still think we have to look at the system. I still think the system's wrong, the structure's wrong.
Peter, we decry and we look down our nose at the League of Ireland. I'd like to know the stats about Irish clubs that are going to Europe are punching above their weight and achieving greater progress than Scottish clubs are doing. I mean, that's where we are now. And again, there was a white paper written last summer with the SFA about how to restructure this and that. Hasn't happened yet. Nothing continues not to happen.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at it from a financial point of view of generating the money, all the deals are in place to 2029. They've got Premier Sports done for the additional matches. They've got Sky Sports. BBC have got their part of the deal they're happy with. William Hiller signed up to 2029, so he's got the money. So that's fine. So when you get to, and especially this season, it's going to be very, very difficult for any of us to turn around and be critical, because quite simply I'll go, wait a minute, there's 3 teams battling for the top. There's a battle going on for the middle section, and there's a real battle going on at the bottom end. All 3 areas of that Premiership are live, so there's no chance. I mean, it would be like an echo in the wind to try and criticise it all. But I think the bigger picture is critical.
It is, because we confuse competitiveness with quality, and we might go, isn't it great that we have that? And then you go, well, is it? Because it is in one respect, but there's also a severe diminishment in the quality in the league. There's no doubt about it. The league gets worse in quality as it goes on.
The stats show that the amount of Scottish players that are playing week to week in the Scottish Premiership is diminishing. The game time that you're talking about is getting less and less. We are overloaded with mediocre foreign recruits. Look at St Mirren that won the League Cup. Great achievement, but it was achieved fundamentally with cheap foreign recruits. Where's the progress there?
You see, look at Motherwell as well. I mean, Motherwell have got, lately played some terrific stuff, great manager, good tactics, but nobody's telling me, there's been bids for 1 or 2, and there'll be nibbles for 1 or 2, but Motherwell's mainly based on, I would say broadly, a League One in England status. Certainly in terms of wages.
Yeah.
And wages dictate everything now. We can criticise Manchester City for what they've done with the money, but money is such a crucial part in what you can put on the park. It's since Bosman, money generally is what gets you your place in the league.
The other critical point, I'm very, very critical of your, team and others, Michael. Aberdeen's, the Hibs, the Hearts, losing to mediocre sides. Hearts lost to, Hearts were knocked out by FC Zurich, for God's sake. Celtic, obviously, Kairat Almaty. But the teams out with, Rangers have really kind of been flying the flag and amassing most of the coefficient points that are worth anything. They've been in a European final, so, at least they've contributed. Yeah. But I think overall, we need to, at some point, and there's no point embracing, think tank 3, 4 or whatever, 2.0, because we just disregard it. But I think sooner or later, the penny's got to drop that we... Dunfermline beat Hibs. I look at Partick Thistle. I think they're a Premiership side. I think Dunfermline are certainly, they've got a good fan base, certainly got a good business model. There's got to be some point where we start to say to ourselves, you got to rethink this, guys.
But I think that all the major clubs haven't ever embraced or engaged with the idea of giving young Scottish players enough minutes. They will always... if they have the money, they will always buy in replacements from Europe or England, rather than develop their own. I mean, I think you've seen it with Celtic over the years. You see it with Aberdeen at the moment. There's not many young Scottish boys coming through. And I think that has to be a mindset that the clubs embrace. I don't see any inkling that they're going to embrace it, because you look at the activity that's been done in the market so far. It's always external, rather than trying to go. I mean, Lyle Cameron was signed by Rangers, and then immediately he's out of the picture and he's loaned away.
Yeah,
you know. And they bring in other central midfielders.
Curtis is away, you know.
Finlay Curtis is going to Kilmarnock, you know. And you're talking about Celtic are about to play Bologna with a classic example of what happens if you can give a talented young Scottish player games when he's young. Lewis Ferguson. The boy played about 100 games for Hamilton before he even went to Aberdeen, and got another, whatever it was, 200. And look at the career he's built for himself on the back of that. But you could name 100 boys that have hit a blockage and not played at that age. And that's the pathway thing that the SFA have been trying to unblock.
yeah.
Michael, it's great enthusiasm talking about these things again, but we've had that conversation for the last 20 years.
That's what I'm saying, and I don't think I still don't see any indication or evidence from the clubs that they're going to change that.
Yeah.
The major clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to change. Well, we need to change the structure. Which, if you boys hadn't taken your 30 pieces of silver, we would have been able to change the voting thing. You know, let's not forget history, Michael. I've held that as a chip.
Who did they vote with?
Yeah, I've held it like a chip in my shoulder for long enough. Yeah. When Rangers were out of that league, there was a real chance to change that voting structure, and they didn't do it.
They had one ally, I think, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen. Coming up, I was hoping it would be all guns blazing, a real shootout between two teams at the top at Tynecastle, and suddenly the product is further diminished by just what can happen in life. Managers can pick up injuries, somebody can make a stray tackle, pick up a red card, somebody picks up another injury, and suddenly Hearts are below full strength, and suddenly Celtic, because of their own ineptitude in structure, recruitment, are going into this game maybe throwing in a 6'3" Borussia Mönchengladbach loan.
Yeah, I still think it's all guns blazing, though. I mean, I think it's a huge game. I think Hearts win it. They go 9 points clear of Celtic. I mean, that's hugely significant.
Celtic dead and buried if they lose.
I never get into these conversations, and I'll tell you why. I always think that history has proved no, because history proves that the teams can go into the split 5 points clear and lose the league at the split.
Yeah, but 9 points. I think the last team to overcome a 9 point disadvantage was Aberdeen. Davy Hay.
Yeah,
you know, that's a long time ago.
It's a big. But if you look at Hearts, would still have to play Celtic at Celtic Park, and we still have to play Rangers as well. So I mean, there's game, and Hearts haven't
45 points still to play for.
Hearts haven't been totally convincing either. You know, let's be honest. So I would say it was a huge step, but I wouldn't. In this daft season, I wouldn't rule anything out.
I agree with you, because I think you're sounding like you're kind of downplaying the game compared to what we hoped it might be.
I'm down.
Or you're feeling it's maybe diminished a little bit.
No, the implications of 9 points clear is still fantastic for Hearts at home.
Yeah.
I am merely observing the fact that we were hoping for a game where suddenly Hearts have got their top team. They've suddenly got a situation where all the new signings are in. So at home advantage for how many years have you think about it? How many years have we waited for a team out with Celtic and Rangers going head to head, who are 6 points clear in the league? You want Shankland on the park. You want Devlin, who's a contender for Player of the Year. You want Beningime because he's an absolute master in the middle of the park for them. And then you're saying to yourself, and you also want the boy they've just signed, Chesnikov, who looks as if he's a sensible enough player out in that flank. And then you're saying to yourself, well, that's up against, things being equal, a board that actually people could have guessed what they were up to, and back to Martin O'Neill, because when Martin O'Neill come back in and wins 2 games, Celtic fans are thinking to themselves, there's going to be 4 signings coming in as well. This is going to be a blistering game. In the end, it's not.
Yeah, well, we don't know how it'll work out yet. And it might be a blistering game, you know. And the only thing I would say about Hearts is that I was looking at this yesterday, and I counted about 8 different times and 8 different reasons this season that they've been kind of written off or downplayed, or the bubbles. This could be the test that they won't clear. And the latest one is these injuries. Having said that, I do think injuries is a really profound one, you know, because it is Shankland and it is Devlin. And we know that Halkett and Finlay have been great and Kizaridis has been great, but Devlin and Shankland and Beningime are big. Devlin's played every game this season when they've beat the Old Firm, home and away. He's been central to it. So you cannot get away from that being significant. And they're trying to sign players, aren't they? Mato that you mentioned as a striker, they're also trying to get a midfielder from Forest Green Rovers, Mendy. I mean, listen, it's asking a lot to kind of throw these guys in and expect them to be good. But, you know, Hearts have kept delivering this season, kept surprising us. They had a wobble, they've come back from the wobble. They lost to Hibs, they've won 3 games in a row since then. The record against the Old Firm is exemplary so far this season.
We're also playing against a Celtic team that struggled so badly against Falkirk, and
exactly.
adding to that, the Auchinleck game was a non-event. So
it doesn't feel like a normal Celtic that they're up against.
That's a massive factor. I don't think that kind of imposition or that kind of approach will be anything other than typical Hearts, because they know that they've got the measures of them.
I don't think it's diminished the excitement of the game.
No, but
the game.
I take your point. We'll find out. We'll find out, and I think once you get that locking of horns and the consequences that are there,
well, it's going to be an incredible occasion. You're going to have 18,000 people in that bear pit at Tynecastle, probably the best stadium in Scotland to have as a bear pit for such a game.
Yeah.
And you're going to have 2 teams just 2 teams for their own reasons just can't afford to lose. I mean, you know, Celtic go 9 points clear. Hearts, if they lose, then speculation, you know, goes into overdrive. I still think it'll be a terrific, exciting game.
The Martin O'Neill mystique could be knocked off course if they lose, because Celtic fans bring them back again and get the feel good.
I think there's a realism though about what Celtic have got at their command though. I think the fall off in quality, I mean, and I think it's the depth of quality. I mean, there was a time when Celtic would be struggling at Ross County or whatever. I mean, the 3 subs warming up would be Giakoumakis, Abada and whoever, you know, coming on to change the game. We know now that the depth of the squad isn't anywhere near. Never mind what the first team squad's like. The depth, what they're bringing in is. You saw that against Talbot, the players that they were bringing in. Martin O'Neill very diplomatically said, you know, Talbot isn't a game to make any judgments on. It's this defensive attack, and there was not much there, but there was a game that people could have really chapped the door, you know, and nobody made an impact in that game.
But again, if I'm battering Manchester City, Celtic's wage bill and Celtic's structure is such that Martin O'Neill obviously knows for himself, and he's openly admitted it, the standard of player that he's dealing with now. You know, McGregor gets a place in his 2001 side on the bench. Doesn't get into the starting 11. So the rest of them don't have even a chance of being considered by Martin O'Neill when he started at the start of the millennium. But he's still got way above what everybody else has got. But the problem he has is quite simply, as partly suggesting here, the mystique is gone. There's no mystique. He's got to try and get the best out of a squad, because he's suffering what the previous manager and the manager before him are. A board with 80 million in the bank that has a game plan that nobody can guess. I don't know is there a self-destruct with this board?
Well, I was at the Falkirk game last week, and Celtic won it. And normally in that kind of circumstances, we kind of go, well, you know, you grind them out, and you know, you win ugly, and that's how a league's won. There wasn't that feeling about it, and I don't just mean from the media. I mean the supporters. I thought were very quiet. I thought O'Neill himself was a bit kind of subdued when he came in after. It was almost like, God, you know, this is maybe even more kind of alarming than I thought. I wasn't at Auchinleck game, but it got the same kind of vibe from him then. You know, maybe the transfer activity they hoped for wasn't coming. This striker coming in, Who knows?
Yeah, one former Celtic player sent me a text the other day there, and he just said the board have won. He says, because Martin's come back in, papered over the cracks, and he felt as if the sting had been taken out of the supporters. But I think the sting is still there. I think they're absolutely raging.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there saying to themselves, there needs to be a complete change in the thought process and the way they go about their business. But I think it's waiting for this game. I think it'll reignite itself.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I think the sting has been taken out of it because he's won 3 games so far.
Yeah.
Not especially convincingly, not as convincingly as he would have hoped or maybe expected. I also think that the fans exempt O'Neill from criticism,
Totally.
because they think, well, he's come to the rescue of this season, and there's so much gratitude and obviously affection for him anyway, and respect for him. So I think the attention. It hasn't come off the board, but it'll go back on the board and intensify if they lose to Hearts or if they lose to Rangers at the beginning of March, I think it is.
Yeah.
Or if the rest of the window is as unimpressive as it has been so far. I mean, they've signed a right back on loan from Bournemouth. They've signed this Favkarna, is that how you pronounce it, from Mönchengladbach. He's on loan as well. His record isn't great. There's not an awful lot of goals in there. He's a big lad. Apparently he's quick. So he'll bring something. And as Hugh was alluding to there, I think this is the poorest attacking options that Celtic have had in years.
But here's the thing, Gordon, from a point of view, when you have clubs of the stature of Celtic and Rangers, and Rangers to be credited because they've done their business quickly and they've gone out and they've got players. Whether they turn out to be good players or not, you can buy into some back pages saying, "Oh, Skov Olsen's going to be a genius." We've heard that before. We've got to wait and see a very impressive manager from me and Rule fit them into the structure. But Celtic are now, we've just mentioned, Hearts have brought in Lauren Mendy from Forest Green that they're trying to get in there as cover. Rogers Mato, who maybe fits into this analytics. But Celtic, right now, with the 80 million potentially in the bank, can't go out and just turn around and go, well, listen, we'll just take Mazwanisi. We'll just go and take, the boy, Motherwell, the Elliot Watt. Just here's your money. Just go and get them.
I think that affection you're talking about for Martin O'Neill, if he cuts a league are figured on Sunday, I think that will be in jeopardy. I also think that it's the laziness and the dysfunction. You use the word ineptitude. Clearly that's what it is, because you're right. Somebody has to go and identify the guys. There's other clubs working hard. I know individual sporting directors that are scraping every barrel to try and get that extra edge and get a diamond in. Celtic just haven't been lazy. They've had a sporting director that's just been sleeping on the job. He has assembled a list which clearly has been discarded because they're now scratching about. And Celtic fans are not going to accept an Elliot Watt coming in as your answer to that. They're expecting Callum Wilson, who's probably on £120,000 a week, fantasy arrivals, which Celtic have pulled out the bag occasionally in transfer windows. I think there's always a day of reckoning, and this is the transfer window that happened for them.
But it's interesting as well how things are perceived, though, because Rangers have signed these guys, and because they're winning, the fans are going, these 3 are going to be great. If Danny Roll's appointments,
Absolutely.
Everything, these guys are going to be good. Hearts, because they've got a good record in the market under Jamestown, these guys are going to be good. These are shrewd signings, right? Now, we don't know about any of that.
Yes.
And Celtic, I looked at it last night, and the Celtic fans are already crucifying this guy.
but by the way, can I just say something to you, Michael, with all due respect? They're crucifying him because they're looking at the stats.
Yeah.
He hasn't actually been able to tear it up. I mean, I'm looking at it and I say to myself, wait a minute, 1 goal in 11 on loan in the Turkish league.
Does that not answer
2 goals in 28
does that not answer
matches?
your question?
But
Why are Celtic not able to go and target that?
Yeah.
That's Celtic's target market.
But Mazwanisi scored 15 goals and he scored 14 of them in a league that he knows, which is this league here. Why are you looking at... I mean, I understand sometimes, and Hugh and I discussed it last week, Martin O'Neill, it was a stonewall certainty he was going to say if you're going to sign somebody, make sure he's 6 foot.
But hang on a minute. The last time Celtic pulled a master, Scott McDonald was probably the last recruit of that kind of ilk. You went to a provincial team and you went and he delivered massively. It's a difficult move to make. I take your point, but Celtic fans are not going to be satisfied with that. Don't forget.
Be satisfied with Mazwanisi, for God's sake.
I think the thing about
so?
Mazwanisi comes, I think they would be, I think Mazwanisi comes into the thing that we were discussing with other journalists, you know, that one of the strategies in the January window would be Celtic just buy the league. Like they just go, this is so bad, see this money that's in the bank, we just splurge it. We just go, you know, Mazwanisi might be valued as in transfer market a £800,000 player. We'll pay $3 million for him. We'll just throw the business model out and we just go. But what you're dealing with there is you're dealing with inherent risk avoiders, non-risk takers. And to ask them to change a lifetime in one window, it would be, I think it's going to be impossible. What I think that, you know, we're talking at this moment in time with Celtic having 2 in the door. I think by Sunday they'll have 4 in. I think they'll have 4 in. I think the one's just a bit over the line. There's another one that's pretty confident. But will they really enthuse the fans? Probably not, because that's the market we're on.
You're not signing hot. You're trying to reheat somebody that's gone cold in the January.
But that's January.
If they're hot, you're not getting them, right?
Aye, that's January. I mean, nobody wants to. I mean, it's all cliches now, but it's the January when nobody wants to sell the best players. But it's a fact.
But it's a But if I am part of what I totally and utterly nail them as the self-preservation board, you know, let's all protect each other and make sure we get our bonuses. If I was that board and I'm looking and saying to myself, we've put Martin behind the 8 ball. And he's not going to get it because he's the Messiah coming back there. We're getting it. If they lose to Hearts, the clamour for them is incredible. They could actually do what Hugh was saying. They could actually reverse their mindset and say, this is a roll of the dice to win the league.
Yeah, oh yeah. But they almost seem almost numb to the criticism because they've had so much for so long. Believe it or not, I actually spoke to a couple of people in football, not Celtic aligned, but they were sympathetic to Celtic, believe it or not, and to the board, because they say the targets or the level of targets they think Celtic are going for are guys that think they might have a chance in the of getting a move to the English Premier League. Yeah. So they won't come early in January, even mid-January, if they think there's a chance to get to England. End of the month, when it becomes clear they're not going to get that chance, suddenly they might pick up a phone to Celtic. Now, I don't know if that's true, because I don't know if that's the level of player that Celtic are trying to identify. I mean, the guy from the Czech Republic doesn't strike me as an English Premier League level striker.
Yeah.
But that could be an explanation for the delay or the inactivity. But then again, Celtic have been doing this for windows past.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing that I look at this whole race and think to myself is everybody's looking and saying, "Oh, Tynecastle." This has got the classic Grand National feel about it. I just can see Rangers coming up on the outside here and thinking, while these two absolutely kibosh each other, we can just go over Beecher's Brook and then make the run for home.
That's a brilliant analogy, but I think you make a great point. It's the purest Celtic attacking, front-loaded option that they've had in a long time. You've got guys like Raheem Sterling are doing nothing at Chelsea, right? If you're talking about Celtic buying the league, go and make the phone call to Chelsea. How much can we agree here to get a player of that? That's a game-changing arrival. But that's not going to happen, is it? And that's why Rangers probably then become the charging horse in the last 4 or 5 games.
I think they've got a great chance, Michael.
Yeah, so do I, because they're stable. And that's not something you could have said about Rangers any time almost in the last 20 years, you know. They're stable, they're behind a manager who seems pretty sharp to us, seems to know what he's doing, and he's getting the best out of his team. I mean, that's the best you can ask for as a manager. I think the Americans are getting a bit more sure-footed after a really rocky start. The Russell Martin thing was a disaster. Thelwell didn't work out, Patrick Stewart, but they've acted quickly, and they've kind of reset themselves a little bit. And at the moment, they look like they've won a watch with this manager they've got, who the fans have taken to, and he's getting results in the league. Maybe not in Europe.
Scoring goals now, Milowski.
Aye, yeah, well.
he's not buying into that because obviously it's 5-0 against Annan. I understand.
But I think Rangers fans are still unconvinced by Majorski. He's not good.
We know what he can do.
Yeah, he certainly was good at Aberdeen. I think he hasn't shown that form for Rangers yet, but it might come.
Do you fancy them as an outside?
Oh, aye, very much so. Aye, very much so. I mean, I wouldn't even say they were outside. I mean, I would say, you know, if you look at the stability is a great thing. He got over a very patchy early spell. They'll look at results and it shows win, draw, win, you know. But there was results that could have gone the other way for them. Dundee United, last minute penalty. Livingston, you know, should have had a penalty. Motherwell, you know.
Last draw with Celtic and Rangers beat Dundee. I mean, that's what I think Rangers want a draw. Fair, you know, or they want Celtic to win to drag them closer.
I wouldn't go that far, probably. Once.
What a remarkable statement to make.
I know.
I think
shows you how warped this league is, doesn't it?
No, I think Rangers can look very calmly what happens, almost disinterestedly in what happens at Tynecastle. What they've got to do is beat Dundee. The great thing about the league at the top is when you were talking about 6 and 9 points, if you were talking about Celtic in Rodgers' glory years, the Invincibles, or even under Ange, I would have said 9 points would have been daunting, but not impossible, because these were teams that could go on games 15, 16, not just unbeaten, 15, 16 wins, maybe, and a draw in there. Could you say that about Celtic now? I don't think so. And can you say it about Rangers going in? Well, they've had a good run, but you'd be more sure of saying it than Rangers than you would of Celtic. Simply not because of they've got this flamboyant attacking state, but there's a bit of stability about them.
The other game changer so far this season, it might not last, but Hearts have won all the games against the Old Firm. That's what you never used to get. Yes. Any time you got a even tentative challenge, they would come up against Rangers, Celtic would be beaten, and suddenly the gap's opened up again. That hasn't happened this time. All the points have gone to Hearts.
And Michael, see if you're a club like St Mirren, Motherwell, you don't want to go to Ibrox, you don't want to go to Tynecastle. You quite fancy your chances at Celtic Park. It's a scalp to be taken. And that's where the psychological element comes in.
And we don't often do it on the Journos, but I think it's relevant to this weekend because the game's on the Sunday. And I think it's probably time to start offering our predictions on those two games because they're just massive consequences. Because of the nature of the way it's changed, I think Celtic can go there and get minimum a draw because the 3 best players for Hearts are not there. I wouldn't rule out even... I fancy them getting a draw. What do you think, Hugh?
Well, it's interesting. There's some of the tactical analysis online that suggests that Devlin is a huge loss. That Beningime and Shankland aren't. With the array that Derek McKinnon's and the attacking options can have, that you can really change it and freshen it up front. I think it'll be a draw as well. I mean, I think a draw is most likely. And that's always the cop-out, isn't it? Just saying a draw. Yeah. If you actually said to me, who would I think win it, I would say... I genuinely think a draw is a valid result, but I think I would go for Celtic just slightly because they have to win it. They really have to win it.
I also think it could be will be a draw, but
a draw is a prediction, by the way.
I know, but it's, I'm the third person to say it, and it sounds a bit weak, you know. But and it would also suit both teams, I think. Fundamentally, I think it would suit both teams. It would keep Hearts top, and it wouldn't blow any big hole in Celtic. Obviously, they want to go there and win. A 1-0 win either way wouldn't surprise me. I'll be honest. It's difficult because we don't know if Hearts are going to have new players in.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if they're going to have Mato and, well, mind you, I think they're talking about him maybe not being ready, even if
they get the visa.
Yeah. But they might have the midfielder in who might be good.
Lauren Mendy.
We don't know if the Celtic striker is going to be good. He might hit the ground running. He might not. I think he scored in his debut for his last team, did he not?
Listen, there's no doubt that Martin will just say, listen, throw him in. Just fire the ball in there. There's no doubt whether in the next couple of days he has other players that he suddenly wants to actually give them a debut is a huge, huge ask. I think Martin will look at it and say, the back four is picking itself right now.
Well, he's got a Regio to come back in.
Yeah, and then he'll look and he'll say to himself, I'm not changing the middle three. It's up front where he's more likely to say, here's a striker. I think he needs 2 strikers. I don't think...
I think there's another one on the way. I think there's a more creative player on the way as well. I mean, if he goes into the game, as we're talking about now, he goes in with his normal back four, he goes in with midfield probably Hatate, McGregor, Engels, and then up front he's got options, because if he puts in the big guy at centre forward, he's got to play Maida. And Taniki, if I said nobody really impressed against Auchinleck, Taniki did all right against Auchinleck, and I think Martin said, oh, he's got something in him, so he might play him. So that leaves him with, you know, Nygren, etc. to come on. You know, so it's not threadbare. I think it's threadbare in depth, but it's not threadbare as in, you mean, you
starting 11.
Starting 11, yeah.
Just with that in mind, I think Rangers will narrowly beat Dundee, and Dundee deserve great credit for you know, Stephen Presley.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
100%. I think when you get that sniff again of transforming your season with a manager that the players are buying into, you don't go and lose a game like that. They need to win.
You might not have noticed this, Michael, because your eyes don't look for the type of thing that I see on a regular basis in the west of Scotland, which is a cesspit of madness, because you have a beautiful city with granite buildings and very little poverty. I drive into the M8 and I don't know who he is, but the painter for the Rangers fans has been working overtime. He's been hanging off a railway bridge, painted it red, white and blue. There's been some unbelievable graffiti, Hugh, top drawer stuff. I mean, not just Rangers. I'm talking about, you know, the shades and the lovely big giant 3D effect to it. And obviously we've got some pundits giving it we're back. So there's a growing confidence in the supporters now. They like what they see. They're maybe not fooled. I think a lot of sensible Rangers fans are not fooled with the overall standard of football, but win games.
Aye, absolutely win games. And
will they beat Dundee?
They should beat Dundee, but I don't think it's a gimme. And I don't think it's a gimme even in form. I think most Rangers fans, you know, was talking... mate of mine's a Rangers fan on Saturday, goes to all the games, and he said, listen, this is a case of, you know, we'll take it. This is a case of points over performance at times. He says, but there is a shape to us. There is a, you know, we know what we're about. He says, but we're not, by no means there yet. Dundee have come on immensely. Dundee, if we rewind to the start of the season, like Presley sacked. Dundee, an absolute mess, relegation certainties, and he's outlived the man. You know, he's outlived 2 managers at Celtic, a manager at Rangers in various interims, an Aberdeen manager. I mean, he's played a blinder here.
Absolutely,
he's played a blinder.
He's sticking with the long hair. He doesn't care.
Oh, he doesn't care.
He's still looking.
He's
rugged.
great. He's great.
I love him. I think he's
his own man, Stephen Presley, isn't he? He's his own guy, and good on him.
Yeah. Are they winning, Rangers?
I think Rangers will win this one. These are the results they've been taken care of by and large. You know.
We're on to the Dons next, but I forgot the quiz. I'm going to throw it in now for you guys. Elite Joinery and Fire Protection sponsor our quiz for us. We always throw in a wee question every day. How many times has an English club won the UEFA Champions League since 2003, 4, 5 or 6? Now remember, Man United won it in 98-99 season, so this is from 2000 onwards.
So
don't go through them all, Hugh. Just have a wee guess, will you? And then we'll get it at the end. We'll give you the answer to the quiz at the end. Do you think you know the answer, Percy? Oh yeah, look at him with that assuredness of a tabloid journalist.
Once I speak to Hugh.
Once Hugh's counted it up in his head. The Dundee Dons. Well, listen, if you were looking in, I think I always the way the world's gone now, Michael, there are fanzines, there are people who are coming on social media who are saying they're in the know, and they think it's Robinson or McGlynn. You're saying no.
I don't think it is either of them. No. I think it'll be another foreign manager. I don't think they've settled on exactly who it'll be, but they've got 2 or 3 names, and it is the man Lutz Van Seal who's driving this. I think Dave Cormack has given him autonomy to find the next manager from. I mean, when they appointed him as sporting director, the German sporting director, in October, November time, they made a big play on his contacts, his international network of contacts. And I think you have to listen to that and think, well, what does that mean? And it doesn't mean that the next manager's coming from Falkirk or Motherwell or St Mirren, you know, because that doesn't square.
Does it square with you?
I
It's Bertha for him.
Yeah, I would have him. I would have Ask, of course.
He should be the Celtic manager.
Yeah. I think there's certain reservations that the club might have about bringing in a guy who's such a strong kind of philosophy manager mid-season, and maybe what we've seen happening at Celtic is almost a warning about that.
I think there's a big priority for the sporting director as well. They brought in this guy who is unencumbered by any lack of confidence, shall we say. He's not going to sit down and say, we said this last week, he said he's not going to sit down, you know, with his new power, you know, the new guru, and say, yeah, I think we'll just go down the road and get somebody. It's not happening.
No, this is his first big decision.
It's his first big decision, and he's not going to give a decision with all best regards in the world that Alan Burrows could give.
Yeah. That's it. And, you know, so he wants to impose himself and announce himself and advertise himself and show what he's worth. And, of course, the proof of the pudding will be in who he gets and how that person does.
Why would they not, and just give me your thoughts on this, why would they not go for somebody who's principled, who's coming in with a clear strategy and a clear blueprint of the way to play football? Their season's gone. They're not going to get relegated. So why not come in and turn around and say, you know, the players that I spoke to at Motherwell said within 2 weeks in the Netherlands, we knew what we were going to do. We knew what this boy wanted.
Yeah, no, exactly. But maybe they are worried, but that they're 8th in the league and could get sucked into trouble. If it was a summer appointment, maybe they would look more favourably at Askew. I don't know. I mean, I'm only surmising. I mean, I find the guy incredibly impressive. I think you do as well.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
His football. When I saw them beat Celtic 2-0 that night, obviously the passing is great. We know that about Motherwell. The passing has been praised all season.
And not with millionaire footballers.
No, exactly. You know, I mean, the back four is the same. They had all that back four at the club last season, so he's not thrown money at it. But the thing that impressed me at Fir Park that night was the work rate and the organisation and the off-the-ball stuff. And I thought that is such an important factor in this. Never mind the nice passing, and it is nice.
Yeah.
And I think that element, the work rate and the pressing and counter-pressing, Aberdeen have been lacking that.
Absolutely. You could turn around, if you turn around and you say to yourself, I ask you this, Gordon, you've played the game at that level, you turn around and you bring in a manager like Askew, I don't care. Fan and Steel will bring in somebody that's obviously got his own blueprint and has got to try and get something out of them before the end of the season. You turn around and you say, wait a minute, we've got Lyle Cameron on loan. He comes in and he goes, right, we're going to play this 4-3-3. This is the work rate I'm demanding of you, and you're going to play in this holding role and you're going to get us out. You're going to be there as the linchpin, either him or a Stuart Armstrong. These guys are more than capable of coming in and playing a set and say, you get us out, you guys work hard and play these triangles. And this is the back four. And your job is 7 clean sheets at home. Your job is this. Because you know what it's like. You can tell these guys, footballers don't like their game complicated.
No, they don't. In dressing rooms, either a collective or they play like individuals. As I think it was referred to, Jimmy Tulane basically at his last press conference stated that the egos, you get a Motherwell team which is ego-free. It is liberated with a manager who's allowing players to play their strengths. Make it simple. Go make players who are good at certain things believe they can go and show it week to week. And I think your Aberdeen point about the manager is wishful thinking. His aspirations are in England, and I think he's building a body of work there at Motherwell that will get him there. So I think even if Aberdeen had to kind of tease to see what the test of water, it would be rebuffed with a man with aspirations beyond these shores.
Yeah, but that's fine as long as you get to a situation where suddenly it can get you to a cup final. So I mean, I think when you look at Hearts and you look at Motherwell and where they are in the league and what they're doing, that's what Aberdeen are wanting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Are you heartened by what you've heard on the fact that he's looking at a foreign manager?
I'm not against it by any means. Listen, we don't really have the body of evidence to judge fantasy law yet.
Yeah.
What I will say is I think there's been a bit of a tendency to kind of look at him as a bit of an eccentric, and he is a bit eccentric. I mean, you know, the way he looks and the way Noah's history was thieving penguins from zoos and all that. I mean, it's brilliant stuff. But I've made a point of watching his interviews.
Yeah.
And he doesn't speak like that. He speaks quite sensibly. Like, and the last interview I saw him doing, he talked about what Aberdeen need is aggression and commitment and guys that understand Scottish football.
Michael, why does it have to be avant-garde all the time? We started the show by talking about native, homegrown, problematic. Go and get John McGlynn that plays an attractive attacking, knows the environment. Aberdeen fans are crying out for somebody that goes and plays expansive and gets the ball forward and plays with width.
A lot of Aberdeen fans would
So
take
why
John
do we
McGlynn.
have to go
Would they? Yeah.
constantly continental, outside the box?
Well,
and
they haven't
avant-garde?
constantly gone continental. I mean,
More
they had
often
Jim
than
Goodwin,
not.
which turned out into a disaster.
Jimmy Tilleen's biggest problem is when he arrived here, he brought in what he knew. What a Scandinavian duds, right? Let's be honest. And paid the price for that.
Yeah. The balance in the Aberdeen squad isn't right. It still isn't right. I mean, because a lot of the summer recruits just have contributed very little. Very little.
Were you surprised by the Aberdeen fans' reaction to Lyle Cameron with the banner? I mean, I know it's a small crew who have made the banner and it's not representative of everybody, but realistically now, a lot of the clubs are actually looking to loan deals. It's a strange one. This boy wants to play, and I think he could contribute.
Yeah, no, I wasn't at all surprised by it because there's been resentment before when they signed Liam Scales and Ryan Christie, and
Both of them were good for Aberdeen.
both of them were good for Aberdeen, Christie especially. I think Cameron will be good for them as well, but it does not sit comfortably with supporters to take players from Rangers and Celtic. Because you're developing players for their benefit.
Yeah, which I think is the overriding fact.
Yeah, and also you can't play them against their own teams. So when Aberdeen play Rangers later this season, Cameron won't be involved. Now, Cameron might emerge as Aberdeen's best player or best creative player or whatever in the coming weeks, and then suddenly he's out of the team when they play Rangers. To a lot of Aberdeen fans, the biggest domestic fixture for them is Rangers games, you know, or at least one of the most colourful, or whatever you want to call it.
Realistic, if he does play well, though, he's the type of boy that you could make a serious effort in the summer to sign him. Because the way Rangers are looking at it, I might be second guessing wrongly.
Yeah, well,
I don't see him having a long-term future there unless he just suddenly develops into. I mean, he's got great potential, but is he an out-and-out Rangers player?
but it's a classic situation. Aberdeen wanted to try. They did try and get him in the summer.
Yeah.
And they said accurately, you'll get more time with us. You'll get more game time. You'll be a regular for us. You'll start every week. You know, I don't know, whatever, future captain, whatever. Instead, obviously, Rangers can blow Aberdeen out of the water for money.
Yeah.
And I suppose any player like that, you back yourself, don't you? You think, I can go there and I can start at Rangers.
And his agent would back him and say,
Yeah,
for the money.
and he did start well, but then, of course, other players are recruited and he's out of the picture.
And Liam Morrison?
Don't know much about him. Right-sided centre-half. He's played a fair bit of games in England, so he's got a bit of experience for a 22-year-old boy.
Yeah.
He's Scottish. He'll get it. He'll understand the league. And incidentally, Mitchell Frame, the young lad that they signed from Celtic in the summer, for about a quarter of a million, I think, hadn't been seen. He played against Wraith Rovers, and I thought he was really promising.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, down to Peter leaving and a change of mindset. You know, which, listen, fair play to them.
But the thing, you know, you're looking at Lyle Cameron, for example, just going there, and that might be him at Rangers, and there's certainly evidence to support that. The rules come in, and immediately he was asked to do a paper. Who do you want? And you would expect that Lyle Cameron was in list B. But you can also see there's precedent for players going out on loan and really coming back with a vengeance. I mean, Liam Scales went to Aberdeen and they were actually at one time discussing the finer points of a deal to keep him at Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Suddenly changes his circumstances and he goes on to be a mainstay for
Callum
Celtic.
McGregor the same, went to England.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, at that time, they were quite happy to let him go.
Yeah.
You know, and the fans would have been quite happy to say, well, on you go, Notts County, you know, you're not going to...
Christie's is a wonderful example of a player who went on loan. They didn't, you know, people didn't fancy, and he ends up playing in the English Premier League and is going to a World Cup. And Aberdeen have got a history of taking some really good loan players. I think it was an anniversary the other day of James Maddison coming to Aberdeen. So I think it's crucial for. I always say to players, there's two things. You see the Lyle Cameron decision to go to Rangers. Of course, he's got to back himself at putatively the bigger club. I always remember this with Liam Miller going to Manchester United back in the day from Celtic. People say, "Oh, he'll not get a game from Manchester United. That's a big." You say, well, if you're Liam Miller and Manchester United come and say, we want to sign you, you're going to say, do you know what? I don't know if I'm that good enough for you, so I'll just stay. It's just madness.
Yes, yeah.
These people back themselves. That's why they're elite sports people.
Absolutely.
They back themselves.
Just before we get to the answer to the quiz, one other point which I think is going to come back to haunt a number of managers over the course of the season to the end when you get down to the decisions. May I add to you all, next week I expect all of you to give me your league title winners, your runners-up, your third place and your top six and who's getting relegated and the playoff because the window will have closed and you're going to have to lay your neck on the line, Michael. So get your thinking.
Celtic might sign another Iheanacho though after the window shuts. That would be a game changer.
Absolutely. It's very good. Oh, there's just another flying pig over there in the studio. Calm your jets, Michael. Let's not be silly. The programme was going really well there until you descended into lunacy.
Iheanacho's actually an interesting one because I see he's what modern managers now call out on the grass. I used to think this was or some sort of East End snide informer, but I wonder if he could be a possibility for the weekend.
He's got to come back at some point,
And he actually, for all his injury and all that, he's a decent player.
He's a good player, but 2 hamstrings, evident of the fact they should never have signed him in the first place. Sorry, Michael, I know sometimes you're used to that kind of a Graham Spearsy and BBC mishy-moshy. This is baseball bat.
I know what you're all like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why he's here. He's here when I throw grenades. He throws an additional one in, and then Hugh offers a bit of sanity. VAR. And this is the point I'm making. I don't think, and you can argue with me on this, Livingston won, St Mirren won, St Mirren got a late equaliser. For the first time, he's had 2 apologies so far, and he's waiting for a third apology for the decision last night. I don't think he had a leg to stand on last night. He got his hand pulled. I'm not give me peace. It's not a free kick in the middle of that.
The man's exasperated.
Yes.
He's at the end of his tether. He has been in the back of so many poor calls.
We're talking about Davy Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The flying ointment for this title race, for the relegation battle, for everything will be the poor decisions that are getting taken week after week after week, and it will diminish what should be the most exciting league campaign we've had in decades. Davy Martindale is exhausted with it. And I can see his frustration because that was him climbing a rung. He slipped down. He's got a grievance within himself now which is hard to shift. So these kind of borderline decisions, which was borderline, will grate with him even greater because there's a victimisation element now that you naturally feel.
Yeah. I don't think it was a foul, Michael. He's dragged his hand and then he's popped the ball in the back of the net. You're going to get that. Drag, pull, tugging shirt, I get it.
Yeah. But I think David's point last night was about full-time refs, wasn't he?
Amateur, she said.
But he's not blaming the referee in the game.
Yeah.
He's saying now that he's falling foul of inept VAR officials who are not going and making calls and looking at things. And I think he's got 2 really strong cases for 2 previous games.
Well, the one at Ibrox.
The one at Ibrox with the penalty, and the one last week as well. But this one, I think it's a wee bit softer. But
Can I just say, David Martindale's 100% right. He's right. The one at Ibrox is a penalty kick, 100%. There are amateurish decisions. The people getting paid well for that job. It's a job which is, to be honest, coveted by a lot of match officials. They can't get it right. These are decisions that are possibly going to cost Livingston a place in the Premiership.
Well, that's the key point here, Michael, that I was about to make, that Gordon's rightly pointed out. It's all right, and he's very, very positive, Davy, and he's very balanced in saying, listen, I'm all for Willie Collum, I really like him, I love the transparency, I love the communication. He's not the problem. The problem is the people in the VR who are not, equipped enough to say, we've got to look at that. We've got to have a longer look, we've got to make consistent decisions. on these things, and they're not up to the mark. Now, whether they're not up to the mark overall because they don't have as much technology as they should have is a separate argument. But what they are doing with the technology they have is potentially costing a manager his job and the club security in the Premiership.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they will say that if you've gone 22 games without a win, you can't blame it all on referees and VAR, and that's true as well.
Yes.
But I can understand the Pax's reference to the exasperation that Davy Martindale's feeling, because he's had a victory snatched away from him there at what was it, 89 minutes?
Yeah.
And you think, at last it's coming. Can you imagine what a win's going to feel like when it comes for Livingston? It'll be such an injection for the club.
But you say it's not. You say that's not the overall picture, and the mitigating circumstances are here. For officials to get out of his way. I mean, you're on a run of 22 games. It's not all their fault. It's your fault as well. But I'm looking there and I'm saying to myself, 6 points transforms their position in that league. 6 points takes them above Kilmarnock and 2 behind St Mirren.
Yep. Yeah. Well, of course.
And those 2 big decisions.
Of course.
And they're not as if we're looking at them and saying, come on, it's borderline. It's like, my God, how the hell has he not got a penalty?
I was at the Ibrox game, and we were at the end where it happened, and immediately from the press gantry you're going, that's a handball. And then, so it's not picked up by the referee. You think, okay, well, VAR will mop this up. And then suddenly, it didn't even come up on the screen.
The sooner they get former players in that are sitting idle on a Saturday and a Sunday to go and run their eye over it and get them in these positions, the better.
Was the other one the Kilmarnock one, the Brad Lyons? Was that the other one?
Yeah,
the handball.
The problem is the problem is another one that Scottish football has cast its eye away from over the years. Back at Dougie McDonald Gate, I was hugely critical of the refereeing set up in Scotland and was absolutely vilified online and elsewhere, saying, this is because he's a Celtic fan, and I was trying to make people, no, this is inefficiency. There is things structurally within Scottish football that are going wrong. I mean, at that time, a referee had lied to the Celtic manager and had lied to the SFA employee, or had, shall we say, lied, maybe it was what Stuart Regan admitted what happened. It's just say, had not told the full truth to them. And the sanction he was initially awarded for that was to lose 1 game. Lose 1 game. Yeah. So what you had then is you had a structure that was just not working. I think Willie Collum has gone in and cleared that to a certain extent. What his big problem is that he's not got good referees. There's not a good crop of referees here. Nick Walsh is by far the best, and you can hear the groans and the shouts as I say that. And secondly, the depth of his pool is very shallow. And VAR has increased that because it's meant that these resources are I think the only way forward with Scottish refereeing, it's hugely difficult, is to get independent people in and to do an absolute root and branch. How do we change this?
Independent people in the VAR,
independent people from the outside looking at it, not to be to say this is where you've gone wrong structurally. Because there's small countries like Romania and Slovakia and Slovenia are producing referees for Champions League games. We're not.
But he is taking advice.
You also have an issue with recruitment, though.
Because recruitment's huge.
Because young guys and young girls don't want to get into it because it's a world of pain.
Let me speak up for this, because I've got a horse in the race kind of thing. One of my sons is involved in refereeing just now.
One of mine has done it as well.
The mentoring that goes on, the encouragement, the training that they do, you'll know that, Michael, right? Yep. So, again, there's an ignorance about what goes on in the background with referees and that kind of grassroots level. I'm quite impressed with it.
Yeah, but
I think they try and help them, but I still think it's a difficult sell to kids to come in and be referees.
Yeah. But Willie Collum has sought help and advice out with to come in and look at the structure.
Yeah, there's the thing with pilots, wasn't it, about handling the pressure of a VAR thing. I think the problem that Willie has, and I think we all welcomed the VAR show and Willie Collum's openness, but I think people have got apology fatigue now because they just hear every week, well, we got that one wrong, and Davy Martindale will be, I was going to say tearing his hair out, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Davy Martindale will be infuriated by that. What use is an apology to me?
Well, he said that. Davy Martindale does when an incident like that happens, he's got a guy sitting that's shown him it. That's double exasperation.
Yeah, right in the dugout, absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, we could dedicate a whole programme as to how that's solved, maybe with additionally referees and people coming in, but we've run right out of time. So let's look at the quiz. How many times an English club won the UEFA Champions League since 2000? How many are you going for?
I'm going for 6.
I'm going for 6 as well.
Yeah.
5.
You're going for 5, okay. It's 6. So, and
2 Chelseas, 2 Liverpools,
Why did I do that?
1 Manchester
Of course
United,
it's 6.
1 Man City.
And the other thing I was going to say, Michael,
Just couldn't agree with him.
rather worryingly, as I look back at the 2000 onwards, only Porto out with.
Yeah, that was 2003.
It's just a rich man's competition.
And it was a Porto, by the way, who had Mourinho in his pomp and had players that would later go, I mean, the Deco, etc.,
I think he
etc.,
sold the entire team.
Yeah, but you could also delve into semi-finals. There's very few non-Big Five leagues semi-finalists.
Yes, absolutely.
In that span.
Yeah, gone are those days where you got to the latter stages and enjoyed that. But nevertheless, there's the answer to the quiz. Did you get it right? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. If you want to go to the Champions League final, you and your partner, and flights and accommodation, 2 tickets in the Puskas Arena in Budapest, then you can subscribe to PLZ Premium as well. Lots of things happening in PLZ Soccer. I hope you'll come along for the fun and the ride of it all. And of course, no shortage of opinion, humour and great memories from time to time from Obi-Wan Kenobi on the left-hand side here, Hugh McDonald. Always good to have him with us. You're not with us next week, Hugh, which is a real blow.
No, I'm going to Malaga next week for a bit of respite.
Yeah. Will you take in a game?
Yes, I'm going to Malaga v Burgos on Friday night.
So 2 weeks from now, the big Spanish question will be answered with Hugh McDonald.
No, he's dived out of the... I'll text you to find out who's winning the league, who's getting relegated. And...
Of course, don't worry about that, Hugh. We'll have that in text as
Well,
well.
my great prediction at the end of the beginning of the season, we asked who would be the big surprises in the Scottish Premiership, and I said Livingston. So that's the level of my...
Falkirk relegated, so exactly. And don't forget, the next time Michael Grant's on, we'll get his thoughts on the new Aberdeen boss, Carlo Ancelotti. So with that in mind, thank you for listening and watching the Journos.